Hello again. I think most of us have a favorite Bible verse, something that speaks to us, something that seems to characterize us or give us hope, something that speaks to us of God's nature. Sometimes we use that verse as part of our testimony. We may incorporate it in our email address. We may sign our emails with it. Over the years, I've had several favorite verses, and they've kind of evolved. Right now, my favorite verse is from the Gospel of John. It's from the great hymn at the beginning of the Gospel. It starts with, "In the beginning was the Word." It's actually verses 3 and 4. "All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men." I'll explain a little bit later why that's my currently favorite verse. Back about 10 years ago, when I first started to come into Christian maturity, my favorite verse was Romans 8:28. When I discovered that in the book of Romans, I kind of glommed onto it and made it a part of myself, and it was particularly meaningful to me because it said that my life had a purpose. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. My life had often felt very chaotic and meaningless, full of despair. That verse said to me that my life had meaning, that it had a purpose, that in all of the craziness that was my life, there was a transcendent purpose of the Lord. And for many years that was my favorite verse. Around the same time, there were two other verses that spoke to me and were almost as favored by me as that one. One was Jeremiah 29:11. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Once again, that spoke to giving my life meaning and hope. But what stunned me even more than that verse were the two verses that followed, verses 12 and 13. "Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you." That's one of those promises that God always keeps. Something that we can take to the bank. We may not be able to count on good health or riches, but if we sincerely seek God, He will allow us to find Him, much as Solomon prayed for wisdom and got it. If we seek God and we seek His wisdom, He will reveal it to us. Also, around that same time, there was a verse in 2 Corinthians that was very meaningful to me. It was 2 Corinthians 12, verses 8 through 10. "3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but He said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness.'" What Paul was writing about there was his thorn in the flesh. We don't know what his thorn in the flesh was, and it's probably just as well that it was not specific, because we all have our own thorn in the flesh. And this was meant for all of us. When I first encountered that verse, I had to read it over and over again and meditate on it, because I couldn't fully appreciate its meaning, because it was so antithetical to the way I'd been taught, to the way the world teaches you. That when I am weak, then I am strong, and that God's power is made perfect in our weaknesses. That was a great mystery that took me a long time to appreciate. A little bit later, like a couple of years ago, verses that were particularly meaningful to me were also found in 2 Corinthians, verses 4:17 and 3:18. 4:17 is Therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. This says to me that our trials and tribulations are a necessary part of our growth, that as we waste away, we become, in a sense, stronger in the Lord. A verse related to that is also in 2 Corinthians 3:18. And we, who with unveiled faces all reflect the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his likeness with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. That is about our spiritual transformation, the transformation that comes from the Holy Spirit. Once again, a very hopeful verse. However, I started this blog with John 1, verses 3 and 4. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Why is that so important to me? To me, it explains everything. It explains why there is a universe, why there are stars in creation as opposed to vast nothingness. It explains why there's a me and a you. It explains why there's humanity instead of just a globe populated with animals. It's because the part of God that is love, God the lover, which is Jesus, needed something to love. And so God the Father, the Creator, created a whole universe and created a human race to love. When that verse spoke to me, all of a sudden, questions that I had had all my life made great sense. And these are questions I think we all have, like why is there a universe? Why is there matter? Why is there a creation? Why are there human beings? It's because God's Son needed something to love. That insight was given to me by George MacDonald, the 19th century clergyman and novelist. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Thank you for listening, and have a blessed day.